Y'all listen. Kamala has officially up. I'm gonna tell you why. My grandma been a Democrat her whole life. We sometimes we get into little arguments. We had no fell out. I couldn't even go to family functions, the dinner. But listen, I went and talked to my grandma, and guess what happened, y'all? Guess what the happened? Grandma say Kamala. Kamala, Kulala, whatever the hell, Kool-Aid, whatever the hell her name is. Grandma said she is not about to let this Jezebel send her to hell. I say, what? You ain't about to what? Grandma say she ain't know she for all that sin. Grandma say she ain't know Kamala was for all that sin. I say, Grandma, she full of it. She full of sin. Grandma say she ain't doing it. She ain't doing it. She done turned her back on her. For my grandma to say she ain't voting Democrat and she can't stand Trump, you done f***ed up, sister. You done f***ed up. My grandma say she survived Jim Crow and she made it out. So she said if Trump really is racist, she said she'll make it. But she said one thing she can't make it out of is hell. She said she can't make it out of hell. And she said that's just what is this. Listen, I know it's bad. Grandma called she called her a heifer, she called her a Jezebel, and she called her a harlot. If a black woman call you all three of them things, you done f***ed up as a woman. I'm here to tell you now. And Kamala, grandma said, F you.
Yeah, I was actually speaking with an older woman also because I do street interviews and I reach out to people, and then I also run into people at the airport. And so I was talking to a woman that basically I don't know if it was her son, but it was a younger gentleman. I'm assuming that her son was with her. Maybe it was her boyfriend. I don't know. But a younger gentleman was with her and he recognized me and he was saying, yo, I rock with your stuff. And it was on the way back from Amsterdam. And it was on actually this past Sunday. And he had an older woman with him. And so he was kind of communicating to me that he thanked me for kind of opening up his eyes to what was happening on the Democratic plantation and that he planned on voting for Trump. So shout out to everybody that's out here voting for Trump and everything like that, right? And then the older woman that was with him started speaking about how demonic a lot of this stuff is. And then she also was communicating with me about how things have changed since she was younger and how they used to vote for Democrat, but they did it based off of thinking that the Democratic Party was for the poor and the Republican Party was for the rich. And she's opened up her eyes, and it's funny because this woman was a lot older, but she's opened up her eyes um, to the reality that all of this stuff that's being pushed through, because what we've seen in the past is that when people sinned or they lived their life, you didn't validate it, you understood it, and then you helped them work through it, but it wasn't something that was promoted. And that's the key. Regardless of what you do in your life, the thing that we don't promote is sin. We understand that everybody got something that they're going through, or people have overcame things, or in your lifetime, you haven't always been what you are today, and that you can become an overcomer. Cool. We with it. We not tripping about it. That's awesome. We also understood that, for example, being a part of the alphabet community has always been a part of society since early history. But the problem is that we're promoting it, and the people that's being influenced by it, and now we're advocating for it, are people that don't even have any choice. So, for example, they're trying to put it inside of the schools. And this is what the older woman was talking about. She like, man, listen. She didn't say, man, listen, but figuratively speaking, she was like, man, listen, going inside of women's bathrooms and sports and all this stuff, and she was just basically saying that's demonic and she can't get with it. And she also said that she was a fan of Trump and stuff like that. So that also influenced her decision. And I think that, the people that were a part of it is much different. And then here's the interesting thing about it is that she started talking about Obama. And when they first voted for Obama, he was different and he wasn't like that and he wasn't talking about that. By the time he left office, all of a sudden it became a landmark thing for him to push through things that was for a different community that they expected for him just by default because he was black. And that's the difference between Barack Obama and Kamala Harris, is that Barack Obama never had to talk about what he was going to do for black people because black people were just enthused at the idea of getting a man that was well-spoken, had charisma, and seemed intelligent enough to perform the job, or at least surround himself with the right people to perform the job of being president of the United States of America. And so the assumption from black people was that Obama was just by default going to do things for black people. I never anticipated him doing anything for black people. When I voted for Barack Obama in 2008, and yes, I am very transparent about the fact that I was a part of the Democratic plantation, but I was woke now. When I voted for Barack Obama in 2008, honestly, it wasn't even based off of identity politics. It was two reasons. Partly, number one, it was because that's just the way that we had voted. That's the way I was taught to vote in my family, is that you black, you vote Democrat. That's number one. But number two, I was looking for a change because in my opinion, George W. was the worst president of my lifetime. Biden is running a close second. Kamala Harris as a vice president of the United States of America, I think she's the worst vice president ever. But in my opinion, George W. had messed everything up. And this is the second Bush, had messed everything up. And it was so bad. And we was broke. Economy was messed up. Clinton before that, in hindsight, was the person that set the precedent, and that he sold off all of our American jobs and, kind of forwarded or fast forwarded the monies that was generated from selling out American businesses and then manufacturing the housing crisis. George W. put his stamp on it, and that was the end of that. And everybody was broke in 2008. So when we seen 2008 happen, I'm like, listen, anything is different. Anything has changed. Somebody that's not a lifetime politician, somebody got to show up. And so that's when Obama came through. And so Obama never had to sell black people. Black people was sold on Obama just because, and not because he ever promised anything, which now you see that it's not necessary for them to promise you as a specific group anything. It's a rising tide that lifts all boats, which is one of the reasons why we love Donald Trump, because he's promising to do things for the American people. And then you got to figure it out for yourself. Nobody needs a handout, but we don't want our resources going overseas. We don't want our resources going to people that has never paid into the tax system and illegal immigrants. We don't want our resources going to forever wars, so on and so forth. But my point is that most of us, similar to what he was saying, has been taught to vote a certain way, and we've just been conditioned to do so to where we have no expectation out of it. But even people like old grandmas who a lot of times are stuck in their ways is saying, listen, this form of what the Democratic Party has become, and Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, I can't get with it. I can't do it. I can't vote for them. It doesn't make sense for me. I don't want to go to hell because, and I wonder how people that say that they're Muslim or Christian or are believers in any faith whatsoever outside of being an atheist or worshiping the devil can say that these people have good character when everything that they preach and the thing that they stand on, when they're proposing all of these rallies and saying that they stand for and the thing that they're going to do first is all surrounding getting rid of unwanted pregnancies, which used to be an unspoken thing that happened in the community and urban cores, and that women were doing it and it was largely understood, but it wasn't something that was promoted. It wasn't something that you really talked about openly unless you were in that situation at all. And so, I wasn't privy to it, and thank God, because I never was in a position to do that. I never anticipated being in that situation. But it's bad because now it's all out in the open. They pushing it in front of your face. They don't care. They'll stand on a pulpit and talk junk right after denying that Jesus is Lord and kicking people out of the rally. So, even older people and grandmothers and people that traditionally voted Democrat can see the demon in these people. And we have to be careful of who we put in office and who you choose to be leaders. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off of life. And then last but not least, come and kick it with me in Atlanta. I'm definitely going to try to put the link to this person and their page in the description of the video, because I always like to give credit to the content creators. Y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the chat. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you later. Peace.